keep up with me. Not because I'm in such great shape, because when you're doing this work, the energy is so enlivening.
Yeah.
It's
I was deeply involved in the motion picture, really from beginning to end. I am very pleased to say that the producers of the motion picture gave me permission to involve myself in the project at a very high level, at a very creative level, even from the selection of the screenwriter, a decision in which I was given an opportunity to play a part. And then the screenplay itself, that I reviewed line by line with the screenwriter, even suggesting specific changes and specific additions or subtractions. And then to the casting process, where I was involved with the director, Stephen Simon, in the casting of the motion picture. And then from there on, the shooting went largely without me, because the actor playing my role asked me if he could not have to worry about my standing around all day watching him do the film. So I told him that I would give him the freedom to, offer his portrayal in the way that he thought was most effective. But then after the shooting was done, there came the time for post-production, where we did editing and made the final adjustments to the film, adding the music track and so forth, and other special effects. And I was involved in that as well, because I have some background, some small background, in filmmaking and in entertainment in general. So the producer and the director, Stephen Simon, invited me back into the process. So I had a wonderful time assisting in some small way in the making of the movie. Well, I would say it's 95% true. I think clearly the ending is fictional. The ending of the movie is elliptic and circles in on itself and so forth. Obviously, I didn't walk away holding the shoulder of myself. So it could be said that there was some dramatic license taken in the movie. There are repeated scenes with my mother, with me as a child, which obviously is fictional in that that didn't happen. But with very few exceptions, those fictionalizations were used to dramatize certain aspects of my life and of the story that we felt needed to be brought forward in a more dramatic way. But the action of the film, the dialogue even of the film, is very, very real. Most of the dialogue was reviewed by me line by line, and we made it repeat or reflect exactly what was said in that circumstance when it happened in real life. The dialogue with the publisher, for instance, who offered us the first contract. Much of the dialogue with the people in the homeless park where I spent a year of my life, and so forth. All of those words were actually spoken, almost word for word, in fact, the way they appear in the film. In addition, some of the characters were composite characters that didn't actually appear in my life in that way. You know, across a period of a year of your life or 5 years of your life, many hundreds of people cross your path. We couldn't possibly put that many characters in the motion picture. We had many characters in the movie the way it was. So the genius of the screenwriter and of the director was to take certain characters and make a combination or composite characters of them, so we would have fewer people in the film. I don't know how the movie could have been made a whole lot better. Perhaps if more money were spent on it, it was not a high-budget film, we might have done a few more special effects or had maybe grander sets or something. But by and large, the movie is very accurate, and it does what I wanted it to do. It gets across two messages, I think. One, that God is talking to all people all the time. You don't have to be a saint or a sage or a holy person to have a conversation with God. And two, that any person in the world can experience a shift or a dramatic change in their life if they're open to the possibility that there's more here than meets the eye. So I think that the movie does a good job of getting those messages across. And the movie gives people great hope. I've had many letters from people saying, well, I saw this movie and it's very hopeful. It gives hope for all of us. First of all, nobody's ever 100% happy with any work of art. You know, you go to an art gallery and people walk through the gallery and 4 people love it and 6 people don't, or the other way around. So it doesn't concern me that not everyone is happy with the film. I would say this, though, about the film. The intention was to tell a human story. The intention was not to tell the story of God, but to tell the story of the man and every human being who has had a conversation with God. What we have discovered through the years is that people were intensely interested in knowing, how did this happen to you? I want to tell you that the question that I'm asked more than any other question from people in audiences at my lectures and so forth always is, how did this happen? What were you doing before this? And how has this changed your life? And they want to know about the human side of this story. They've already read the books, so they don't need to know what it is that God has to say. There are 9 books on that subject, but what the books don't talk about is, how could this have happened to a human being? And what was it like when that occurred? And how has your life changed? And could this happen to anyone? Those are the questions that I get from my audiences. So the movie was designed to answer those questions, not to answer questions about God. I don't know that the voice that I'm listening to is the voice of God. I can't state that categorically. I can only state that I believe that it is. But nothing more has ever been said by anyone. The writers of the Bible have said the same thing. I mean, the great spiritual leaders of all time can only testify as to their own experience and their own belief. I believe that I have been inspired by God to bring to humanity messages that are profound, clear, simple, and self-evidently true. I believe, furthermore, that all of us have been given the same assignment. I've been asked many times what I could recommend to people who want to get in touch with God, because a lot of people say, well, I don't know how to do that. And I can tell you that it's really quite simple. Just ask. Just want to do it. No one who has a willingness, a true willingness in their heart and in their mind and in their soul to be touched by the hand of God, to open a communication with God, will not receive that communication. No one. God is simply waiting for us to reach out to her. And when she hears that call, he will respond to all of us. And he always does, and she always will. And it will always be that way forevermore. When I first heard the voice of God, I heard it as an actual voice. That is, it was a physical sound in the room just over my right shoulder. And I was so convinced that the voice was there and real that I turned around very quickly to see who was there. And of course, there was no one there. But I know that I heard that voice in the room. It startled me. It shocked me. And I couldn't imagine who was in my house at 4:25 in the morning. Now, very quickly, the phenomena became non-physical. It felt as if that voice moved from here right inside my head and soon became intertwined with my own thoughts. And I began hearing that voice as what I would call a voiceless voice, that is, a voice without a voice, rather like the sound of one's own thoughts. If someone said, well, what do your thoughts sound like? You'd say, well, it's a voice that doesn't have a voice. It doesn't sound male or female or young or old. It just sounds like words, but I can't describe the voice. It's a voiceless voice. And that's how the voice now sounds to me. But in the first instance, in that first moment, it was a deep and soft and gentle male voice. I thought there was a man in the room. Now, I think I understand as well why that voice presented itself as a sweet and soft and gentle male voice, because that's how I, from my upbringing in childhood, might be expected to welcome it and not be too terribly afraid and go running out of the room. Someone else might hear a sweet and soft and gentle female voice, or some other kind of sound altogether, depending on one's ideas. What I've discovered about God, and what God made very clear to me in the conversations, is that God will appear to people and make God's self manifest in the lives of people in just the way that people would be most likely to welcome and to embrace the experience based on their background and their culture and their previous understanding. So God therefore appears to people in many, many ways. And there are as many different ways to experience the appearance of God as there are people on the earth. And there's no one way or right way or better way. There simply is the way we experience it. In my own life, I now experience the presence of God not only as thoughts in my mind, but as a feeling in my heart. It is a feeling of peace, of forgiveness and total acceptance, a feeling of joy, deep inner joy, the kind of joy that almost brings tears to your eyes, that kind of joy, and a feeling of great wisdom, of underlying wisdom. And when I'm speaking with the God of my experience, I feel all those qualities, not only from God, but I feel those qualities as part of me. That is, I feel wise. I feel joyful. I feel forgiving of all others. It's almost impossible for me to hold resentments or anger toward anyone after I've had a conversation with God. I feel toward others the way God feels toward me. I take on those feelings. The sad part about it is I don't hang on to them. I take on the feeling, but I don't hang on to the feeling, which is what makes me human. But I try more and more every day, and I think as each day goes by, I get closer and closer to my own idea of what it would be like if we lived as if we were divine beings.